Okay, no, you whisper to him and he'll whisper it to me. Can he say it?
Never, 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 never.
In Hollywood, a place where the shimmer of glamour often masks the fragility of truth, where romances ignite with the speed of a camera flash only to fizzle out before the tabloids even run their course, and where fleeting passions are elevated into spectacles while enduring love stories seem nearly extinct, the encounter between SamHeughan, the charismatic Scottish actor known worldwide for embodying the romantic warrior of Outlander, and Dakota Johnson, the enigmatic American actress whose name was etched permanently into global consciousness through her iconic yet controversial role in the 50 Shades trilogy, unfolded in a manner that seemed less like a casual brush of fate and more like a carefully written narrative by destiny itself, a narrative that appeared almost implausible in its quiet intimacy amidst an industry famous for excess. For Sam, long celebrated as Hollywood's Golden Bachelor, the archetype of rugged masculinity wrapped in gentleness, whose deep blue eyes and Highlander charm made him a fantasy for millions while simultaneously imprisoning him in a public perception that obscured his vulnerabilities, and for Dakota, the daughter of Hollywood royalty, yet burdened by the constant comparison to her parents' legacies, a woman whose beauty carried both the sophistication of old cinema and the freshness of modern independence, yet who longed deeply, almost painfully, for a kind of love untouched by artifice, untouched by performance, untouched by the cruel machinery of celebrity. Their meeting was not orchestrated on a film set, not introduced by mutual agents or forced through studio arrangements, but rather in the humble, authentic setting of a charity event in London in 2024, an environment stripped of glitz where sincerity was still possible. Sam had been attending to raise awareness and funds for disadvantaged children in the Scottish Highlands, a cause close to his roots, while Dakota had been invited as the guest of honor to support literacy initiatives, and it was within that context, where altruism softened the egos of fame, that they found themselves standing side by side, strangers yet curiously familiar, as if Jung's theory of synchronicity had woven invisible threads between them long before their eyes met. And in that very moment, when Dakota stepped into the hall, her presence luminous but unassuming, Sam felt something stir within him, confessing later that she was unlike anyone he had ever encountered in all his years of navigating Hollywood's corridors of beauty, power, and pretense. Dakota, for her part, found herself disarmed not by the aura of the heroic warrior he had so often portrayed, but by the warmth and humility in his smile, the gentle steadiness in his gaze that contrasted entirely with the images projected onto screens, and so a brief exchange, almost accidental, about literature, films they loved, and their mutual hunger for travel became the unlikely beginning of something far deeper than either could have anticipated, a beginning whose simplicity was its most profound charm, for love that grows from small words often outlives the love declared in glittering declarations. Yet, both Sam and Dakota knew the precariousness of cultivating intimacy under the suffocating spotlight of Hollywood, and so, in those tender initial months, they chose secrecy as both shield and sanctuary, meeting quietly in Parisian cafes where anonymity offered stolen hours, wandering through hidden Scottish gardens where ancient stones and whispering winds bore witness to their laughter, and finding joy in the most ordinary of rituals inside Dakota's Los Angeles apartment, where Sam would bring home-brewed Scotch whiskey and Dakota would cook Italian recipes learned from her mother, where Fleetwood Mac would play softly in the background, and where two global stars, usually encased in the armor of public personas, could finally be simply themselves. One a man who sometimes burnt dinner in distraction, the other a woman who sometimes hid her fears behind laughter, their shared domesticity becoming a quiet rebellion against the relentless scrutiny of their profession. Sam admitted that with Dakota, he was not SamHeughan, the actor, the warrior, or the bachelor, but merely a flawed man who wanted to love and be loved, and Dakota, in turn, felt seen not as the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith, not as Anastasia Steele of the cinematic franchise that shaped her public identity, but as a woman whose heart still believed in tenderness despite the cynicism of her environment. Yet, as inevitably as shadows follow light, Hollywood's relentless gaze began to intrude, and rumors surfaced the moment a photograph of Sam and Dakota at Madrid airport was leaked, unleashing a storm of speculation. Some fans embraced them as the new golden couple of the industry, while critics resurrected whispers of Sam's supposed entanglement with his Outlander co-star Katrina Balfe. Questioning the authenticity of his relationship with Dakota, and in the cacophony of public opinion, Dakota's natural inclination towards privacy was tested, and she confessed to Sam her fear that their love would dissolve into nothing more than tabloid fodder, a disposable headline rather than a living truth. But Sam, embodying both his personal conviction and the heroic loyalty so often attributed to his characters, clasped her hand and told her firmly, "I do not care what others think. The only story that matters is the one we write together." Words that anchored Dakota's uncertainty, giving her courage to continue despite the noise of the outside world. And so, when the spring of 2025 arrived, they decided no longer to hide but to embrace their truth openly, stepping hand in hand onto the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, a gesture at once simple and seismic. For in that moment, before thousands of cameras and the watchful eyes of a global audience, their private bond became public history, their clasped hands symbolizing not only affection but defiance, a refusal to let the superficiality of Hollywood dictate the authenticity of their hearts. And that single appearance was immortalized instantly, hailed as the birth of a new romantic legend, one that seemed to outshine scripted love stories, precisely because it was lived rather than performed. Yet, beneath the glitter of that moment, their journey carried echoes of archetypes far older than Hollywood. Sam, the Highland warrior softened by the vulnerability of devotion; Dakota, the modern goddess yearning for truth beyond illusion, their story resonating with a timeless human, longing for connection in a world where fame often isolates, proving that even amidst the machinery of celebrity, love can still carve out its sanctuary, not in grand gestures alone but in the quiet spaces of everyday tenderness, the laughter over burnt pasta, the whispered reassurances in the face of gossip, the courage to be ordinary together in an extraordinary world. And perhaps that is why, when reflecting on their story, one cannot help but feel that what unfolded between SamHeughan and Dakota Johnson was not merely another fleeting Hollywood affair, but rather a collision of souls orchestrated by something larger than themselves, something that, in its beauty and fragility, carried the power to outshine the very films that
Try to arrive at a decision.
You want to leave?
Yes.
But your body tells me something different. Your legs, for instance.
In a world where headlines rise and fall in a matter of minutes, and where the lights of Hollywood often blind more than they illuminate, the story of SamHeughan and Dakota Johnson unfolded not with the cold mechanics of publicity stunts or carefully constructed narratives, but with the warmth of something profoundly human, a tale that seemed to remind the world that even in the glare of constant attention, love could still be tender, unmanufactured, and enduring. Their journey began at a moment when both of them were already deeply embedded in the machinery of fame. Sam, known worldwide for his role in the Scottish epic Outlander, embodying strength, loyalty, and romantic heroism that had captivated millions of viewers across continents, while Dakota, the daughter of Hollywood lineage yet fiercely independent in her artistic choices, had carved out her own identity with a mixture of quiet elegance, sharp wit, and fearless performances in both mainstream and independent cinema. And yet, for all their accomplishments, they discovered that true recognition, the kind that leaves an imprint on the heart rather than on billboards or award plaques, came when their eyes met and something wordless, timeless, and deeply magnetic passed between them, a look that did not belong to any script, any performance, or any camera angle, but belonged solely to them. When they first stepped into public view together, Dakota dressed in a radiant red silk gown that shimmered under the lights like the embodiment of passion itself, while Sam appeared in a tailored black tuxedo that made him seem at once princely and approachable. They needed no words to confirm what the world was already sensing, for their glances spoke with the eloquence of centuries of poetry and music dedicated to love, a silent proclamation that said, "We belong together." And indeed the media erupted in frenzy. Magazines from London to Los Angeles, Rome to Tokyo, splashing their photographs with captions that declared, "This romance to be more enchanting than even the most meticulously crafted love stories on film, yet behind the glamour, beyond the flashbulbs and roaring attention, lay a reality woven of both challenges and devotion. For to go public with their love was not to guarantee ease, but rather to commit to navigating the tides of distance, separation, and relentless schedules that threatened constantly to pull them apart." Sam immersed in the demanding final season of Outlander, while simultaneously preparing for a monumental action film that would require months of training and travel, and Dakota in Italy, bringing to life the delicate intricacies of an independent film that tested her range as an actress and required her full presence in a country steeped in history and art. Yet even oceans could not dilute the strength of what bound them, for they bridged the gaps with cross-time phone calls whispered in exhaustion, yet filled with warmth, handwritten letters sealed with perfume, carrying the tangible essence of one's presence across thousands of miles, and spontaneous journeys that defied logic but celebrated love, such as the time Dakota boarded a 14-hour flight solely to spend a 2-day holiday with Sam in the Scottish Highlands, or when Sam, unable to suppress his yearning, flew into Italy unannounced and stood beneath Dakota's hotel window like a modern echo of Romeo, whispering simply, "I miss you." A phrase so small in letters, but so immense in weight that it seemed to hold the whole universe of his longing. Among these countless gestures, one moment rose above all as if chiseled into the fabric of eternity: the proposal under the stars, on a summer evening in Scotland where the air was crisp and the hills rolled endlessly into the horizon. Sam leading Dakota to a secluded hilltop where the sky stretched open like a celestial theater, the constellations glittering with an ancient permanence that dwarfed human concerns, yet somehow blessed this very instant. And there, pulling out a small box that contained not a generic jewel, but a carefully chosen platinum ring crowned with a blue sapphire, the very stone of his homeland, he spoke not as an actor delivering lines, but as a man who had found his truth, confessing, "Dakota, I have lived many years in roles, but only when I am with you can I truly be myself. Will you continue this story with me, not just in a film, but for my whole life?" And Dakota, overwhelmed by the sincerity, by the rawness that stripped away every layer of performance, burst into tears that glistened under starlight, nodding through her sobs and whispering, "Yes," a word that echoed not only through the Highlands, but across the hearts of millions who would later read of it, a word that marked the beginning of something that would soon transform into a dreamlike wedding. Their marriage took place at the close of 2025, at an ancient Scottish castle perched amidst the Highlands, its stone walls holding centuries of history, its grounds wrapped in mist, as if the earth itself wished to guard this sacred union. The ceremony unfolding with a splendor that seemed almost mythic yet grounded in authenticity, the path leading to the altar blanketed in white flowers that symbolized purity and new beginnings, the solemn yet uplifting drone of bagpipes echoing through the cold Highland air, carrying with it both tradition and raw emotion, Dakota appearing like a vision in a gown of delicate lace, holding white roses that matched the winter purity of the setting, while Sam, embodying both his heritage and his individuality, wore traditional Scottish kilts, the clash of cultures between Hollywood glamour and Celtic tradition, merging into a seamless harmony. And as they exchanged vows, even the most seasoned guests, accustomed to celebrity unions and staged perfection, found themselves unable to hold back tears, for Sam promised, "I vow to love you not as a Hollywood star, but as a normal man forever," while Dakota responded with a tenderness that pierced through the grandeur, saying, "I promise to always be by your side, even when the stage lights fade, and it is just us," a pledge that transcended the artificiality often associated with their world. After their wedding, instead of plunging into a whirlpool of glittering after-parties and red carpet extravagance, they chose a path of simplicity, a deliberate rejection of the expected, living quietly in a Highland home where they tended to a small garden, planting flowers and herbs that marked their days with ordinary joys, traveling not for premieres but for discovery, writing together the beginnings of a screenplay that wove fragments of their shared experiences with imagination. their love taking the shape of both art and domesticity, the press in awe declaring them a Hollywood love story with a real-life feel, an impossible blend of myth and modesty, of fame and groundedness. A narrative that enchanted fans globally who saw in Sam and Dakota not just celebrities, but human beings who had managed to strike that rare balance between careers that demanded the world's gaze and a personal happiness that required privacy and devotion. And through all of this, their story proved a truth that cinema often promises but rarely delivers in reality. That love does not only dwell on screens, choreographed under studio lights, but can arise from a single look, deepen through simple gestures, endure the test of distance and scrutiny, and blossom into a legend that generations would admire. A story that carries within it echoes of ancient romances sung by poets, painted by artists, and dreamt by countless souls, yet firmly planted in the 21st century, where amidst the noise of fleeting attention, the permanence of their bond glowed brighter than any spotlight,